So you want to make your first $1,000 in business. Let me show you how to do that in 4 steps using my iPad as our whiteboard today. Before we begin, if you are new here, my name is Tara. I'm an accredited small business consultant helping real people build real businesses. And if that sounds like your jam, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss a single one. Also, check out the links in my description for more resources to help you nail this business. Step number 1 is to know your numbers. If you want to make your first $1,000, we need to understand how many sales that is based on what you're selling. So we want to make $1,000. If you are selling something that is $100, $1,000 divided by 100 is obviously 10 sales. If, however, my handwriting is terrible, but if, however, you are selling something that is only $10, you're gonna have to make 100 sales. So do the math for yourself based on what it is that you're trying to sell. How many do you need to sell to hit that first $1,000? Step number 2 is knowing how you're gonna sell it. And we can break this down into what we can call high-touch sales versus low-touch sales. High-touch sales might be something like sales combos, sales calls, live events, whether that's in person or whether that's online, such as a webinar, or any other sort of face-to-face sales. These are high touch because it's going to require more of your time, but it's also going to be more interactive. It's going to be able to answer people's questions. You're there directly with someone. Now, when we look at the conversion rates on high touch sales, it can be anything from 10 to 40%. This is going to be based on 2 things. It's going to be based on the trust or rapport you have with the person you're selling to. It's also going to be based on your skill level. Meaning, if you don't have a lot of skills in sales, you might only see 10% conversion, maybe even less. But the more you gain these skills, you can see 40% conversions, up to 60, 70, 80, 90% conversions if you have the rapport, if you have the trust built, and if you have the skills behind these techniques. So assess for yourself if one of these makes sense for your business model and for your skill levels right now. When we're looking at low touch, this could be something like ads, it could be sales pages, potentially a VSL, which is a video sales letter. This is a video that you're going to see on a website. Different than a webinar where they have to sign up and attend at a certain time. They're just opening up a website and going through a presentation. These are low touch because they don't require a lot of your time. They're not interactive. You're not there with the person answering their questions or even tailoring the presentation to the person in front of you. But because of this, the conversion rates on these average between 0.5% and 5%. 5% is considered stellar on low touch offers or low touch sales funnels. Now, the difference in these conversions are going to be based on a couple things. This could be based on your price point, especially price point versus value. For instance, if you're selling, a Corvette for $10, obviously you're going to get a high conversion rate. But if you're selling something that maybe doesn't have a lot of value and you're selling it for a high price point, or it doesn't have perceived value to your audience, you can know that it has a lot of value. But if your audience doesn't see the value, you're not going to see the conversions. Now, this conversion rate is also going to be based on social proof. In other words, referrals, reviews, testimonials, especially ones that are hard to fake. The more social proof you have, meaning somebody else is vouching for this offer, the more your conversions are going to increase because now someone has more trust because you're not just this stranger on the internet. Somebody else has already, done the heavy lifting, figured out that this is not a scam and that it's actually worth it. And then the last thing that is going to increase these conversion rates is sales copy. And sales copy can be a long conversation, but we want to think of sales copy as kind of being like a sales conversation, a sales call. When we're on a call with somebody, what are we doing? We're educating them, we're answering their questions, and we're overcoming their objections. Your sales page copy needs to be doing that same thing and needs to be going in a flow that your audience is likely to go in as well. In other words, it's introducing the problem, right? So we're talking about where the audience is or where they're starting. We're starting from that awareness of the problem. Then we might talk about and build rapport by sharing our own story. We start introducing the offer. We start answering questions about the offer and overcoming objections as we go along. The sales page should be a journey, just like a sales conversation is going to journey someone through awareness of the problem to awareness of the solution to a buy-in of the solution. Now, the reason that we are figuring out how you're going to sell it is because that's going to influence your conversion rate, which is going to tell us how many leads do you need to get in order to get the number of sales that you need that we figured out in step 1. So for example, let's say you're selling something at $100 and we're going to assume you're going to get a 10% conversion rate because your skill level is still at the beginner stages. This means to get 10 sales, you need 100 leads. However, if you're trying to do this in a low-touch way, you may need thousands of leads to get the same 100 sales. This is why when people come into my program, one of the first things I help them to do is focus on high-touch sales, because it usually means faster cash. And you need cash to stay in business, so let's start there while we build out funnels and an audience that can help you get those lower-touch sales, meaning you don't have to spend as much time now to be able to convert them. So yes, we spend a little bit more time on high touch funnels at the beginning, selling higher ticket products through higher touch funnels, but over time, we're able to build out the audience and the pathways to convert these things without our time. Now, step number 3 is to figure out how you're gonna get leads into these funnels. And there's really only 3 methods that you can do to find leads. The first is what I call connections. The second is content, and the third is ads or paid media. Every single marketing strategy tactic that exists in one of these 3 buckets. But they all have pros and cons. And in fact, I'm gonna have you look at these pros and cons as something of a matrix. We have fast on one side, cheap on another side, time, how much time it takes on the other side, and then on this side we have scalability. And the first 3 really determine that 4th one. Now, connection marketing, this is going to be fast, meaning you're gonna see results much quicker from it, and it's gonna be cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it, but you will be spending a lot of time, and it is not scalable. In large part because you only have 24 hours in a day, you're hopefully sleeping for 8 of those, you have other things to do in your business, and so you max out on how much connection marketing you can do. Connection marketing is things like networking, referrals, outreach. It's that high touch part of the funnel. Next, we have content. Content could be things like social media content, blog content, YouTube podcasts, guest articles, guest podcasting, anything where you are putting out content on your or someone else's platform. Content is not fast. It takes time to grow an audience. It takes time to get the algorithms or the search engines to be paying attention to that content. It is, however, cheap. It doesn't cost a lot to be able to create and put content out there, which makes it very accessible for a lot of people, which is why a lot of people start there. However, it is very time intensive. You're gonna spend a lot of time and energy, not just to create it, but to learn how to create it well and to learn how to play to the algorithms or the search engines that you're trying to perform on. However, it can be very scalable if you have the skills to be able to show up really well in those search engines or in those algorithms. And if you do it right, the content you're creating can continue to work for you for years to come. And then we have ads. Ads are generally much faster. They are very scalable because you are not going to be locked in, sitting at your desk, manually serving up these ads. The algorithm is going to be doing that work for you while you're off doing other things. It can take some time to learn, but it can also save you a lot of time in the future. However, it is not cheap. It's not cheap to learn the skills. It's not cheap to figure out how to make good ads and how to get those funnels working. Generally, your first few $1,000s is just spent on figuring out great ads and getting them converting. If you don't have the startup capital for it, it can feel like ads are gonna be an impossible thing, but I do recommend getting into them as soon as possible because they are the smartest method in the long run for a sustainable business that won't burn you out. So as you can see, there's no right or wrong way to do marketing. What matters is, what are your strengths? What is your budget? How much time do you have? How quickly do you want results? What's gonna work for you? What's gonna work for your audience, for your business? Analyze these things for yourself and really decide what makes sense for you now versus later. But if you're wanting to make your first $1,000 fast, I would recommend you start with connections. Get out there, start talking to people, tapping on shoulders, shaking hands, introducing yourself, asking for referrals. The more active and engaged you get with your audience, the more they're going to engage with your services or offers. So we know how many sales you need to make to get your first 1,000. We know how many leads it's going to take to get there, and we know what is going to be the best route for you to get those leads. Step number 4 is to ask yourself, what skills do I need? When you look at the way you're going to convert leads and the way that you need to get leads, what skills do you need to make this happen? Ideally, we want to find the thing that requires the least amount of skill development from us, because that's going to mean the fastest turnaround. But for long-term sustainability, we do need to understand where our skill gaps are, because if we don't fill those gaps, we're not going to be able to build our business long-term. I want you to be making more than $1,000 in your business, so make sure you have skill development in these areas. If you need support in any one of these skills, Breakthrough Boss will teach you product pathways, finding your audience, pricing, outsourcing, sales conversations or calls, sales page templates with add-ons for content marketing, and so much more. Be sure to hop on the Breakthrough Boss waitlist and join us for our next round coming soon. Or sign up for my next free class, Profits Not Problems, to learn the 5 mistakes that are gonna hold you back from earning your first $1,000 and beyond. Drop a comment and let me know what it is your business does, how you intend to convert your leads, where your leads are gonna come from, and what skill development you need to focus on. Add a fist bump for making it to the end, and remember, you got this.